Okay, cool. I'm here to answer some questions. So let's just do the first one. So my name is M.Emblem. So I've just been going by Memblem, but it was my Twitch username for a while, and I submitted to a beat battle and
That's Memblem 12.
Memblem?
Yeah.
Memblem?
yeah. So growing up, I used to listen to a lot of like electro house music, the Crookers, Bloody Beetroots. In Asia, that was huge. When I moved to Canada is when I really started expanding my outlook on more hip hop side of things. So in terms of inspiration, there's so many artists that really inspire me. There's a lot of local people, Majid Jordan, K Trinata, The Count. Chris Young has been a great guidance for me. There's other artists such as Chloe, McGee. There are a lot of guys out there that really inspire me. So meeting some new producers through all this really inspires me. Everyone go check out OK Sammy. That is the boy. There's also Hellberg, who I've been listening to since like middle school, and now being able to, interact and talk with him. It's fucking crazy. And so there's just a bunch of guys out there that are really pushing the limits nowadays, and they're just all so dope. So I've been producing for a long time, but not necessarily completely seriously. So when I was about 13, I got on FL Studio, and I just made a lot of like really shit songs for a while. I mean, it was just for fun. I just take clips and try and remix them. I love French house music, so I like to do a lot of that. I didn't really get into it too much until I came to university and I started making music under 404, and that was just a lot of hip hop stuff. And then I started working with Ableton a lot, and then that's when I started really doing my solo stuff. Just this summer, seriously producing probably like 2 years. But actually producing, I mean like 6-7 years of just garbage. So I use Ableton currently. I grew up and my brother used Ableton a lot. And so it always looked daunting to me. I could never really figure it out. He was always much better than me. I was on FL Studio for like 6 years and I loved it. I mean, it really pushed my creativity, but being on and off over and over again for a number of years in the same DAW, I just wanted to try something new to try and refresh that, and that's where Ableton really helped. I think my workflow fits a little better with Ableton. I think Ableton, for me personally, allows me to just do really weird stuff. Both DAWs are just fundamentally great. I still use both to this day. So an artist I would really like to work with in the future, I think, has to be OK Sammy. There are a lot of artists that really inspire me, that I'd love to work with in the future. I mean, like Tom Mish, Mr. Carmack, Sid, K Trinata, Brent Fayaz, Jordan Allman. So I'm super new to collaborations. I've never really done a full production collaboration before, but I'm always open to it. My one workflow tip I'd say is try and get everything down as quick as possible. If you make something that's a good idea, you sort of have a time limit based on how many times you can listen to it before the ideas stop coming as smoothly or being as interesting. It's always important to mix as you go, but that's sort of mixing in terms of sound design rather than, being a perfectionist. I personally feel I make the best things under pressure. So if I have a time limit, or I have to get something done and I have to work on it, I'm forced to be creative in the moment, and that usually gets me the best ideas. So music production style is very subjective, I'd say. It's hard to blur the lines in between a genre or call yourself something unique, or even say that your style of production is your own. I think a very important part of that is being exposed to many different types of music, and constantly listening and learning from different genres. The inspiration I got from listening to a lot of French house, disco house music, along with mixing that with the hip hop R&B inspiration, I think is the main two elements of where I like to think I can go with it. It didn't really happen overnight or necessarily something that I tried to do. And a big part of that was, I was just making a lot of music that I thought people wanted to hear. But as soon as I started to make music I just liked or make what I felt, is where everything started to go up. I started becoming more productive. I started liking it more. And an important thing is it's all about feel. A great way to come up with interesting ideas is to listen to a lot of music and directly pinpoint what you like about it. For me, some songs, it could be one riff. As soon as you pinpoint what you like and why you like it is when you can directly apply it. Otherwise, you kind of just, go around liking a lot of songs and subconsciously not really knowing why. And that's why it's hard to create things that you think other people would like if you don't really know what you specifically like in a track itself. I don't think I have a very strong one. So I grew up in a house very full of music always, and listening to all different types of genres. And that just kind of made it a big part of my life. I always enjoyed listening to music constantly on the bus. This was me. And yeah, that's what I used to do. I used to just listen to music all the time. I did piano lessons like everyone did. I did one cello lesson at one point. I played bass guitar for a few years, played saxophone for a while, but nothing really stick. And that's why production really came to me. I'm always open to using instruments and making everything sound organic. So the mic I use is an SM7B. It goes through a cloud lifter preamp and then goes into the Apollo Twin Duo, which then goes through an expensive adapter into the Mac. My speakers are the Neumann KH120As, and this monitor is pretty much useless. So my email will be in the description if you want to send me anything. I appreciate it. I probably won't get back to all of you, but... So this is my most asked question. Where do I get my drum breaks from? Honestly, a lot of producers like to hide where they get their stuff. I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter where I get them. It's all about your ear. So I get a lot of them from Reddit drum kits. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I use a lot of splice kits. I use drum brokers. They're great. I also love just going to people's websites and buying them. Find an artist that you really like and go and buy their kit. Those are a lot more thought through than the generic ones that you find online. Recently, I just bought Tech Lund's drum kit, and it's huge. I haven't even gone through half of it. Yeah, fan collaboration is not a bad idea. I'm going to be starting my master's in September, so I'm not going to have the utmost time to do everything I want, but, I'm always open to it. Yeah, I'm not great at that. I really do focus just on the creativity part of it first. I make a lot of my music in one session, so necessarily it's not about labeling everything correctly and everything, because you kind of just know where everything is. When I export stems, I do have to, and it's a huge pain in the ass. Yeah, I use Splice as well. I have so many credits there that I just don't use. I usually go to Splice if I'm looking for something in specific that I have in mind. Other than that, I like collecting individual drum kits myself, or I try to use my own melodics more often. So I don't know too many music production channels on YouTube. Personally, I like You Suck at Producing, as well as Reed Stefan. They have a lot of advice for something a little more advanced. I think I learned a lot of specific techniques from YouTube, but I never really used it too much as tutorials, more like inspiration. Another channel I really like is Fellnuts. So that's Felly, an established artist that just goes through his process. My most important aspect of watching any other musician is more seeing inspiring things, from a really high level. And that gets me more creative than I think a specific technique would. So the whole drum and audio tracks just depends on how I feel at the moment. If I'm layering a lot of claps, I'll usually use a drum rack. I also use a drum rack for individual hi-hat samples a lot of the time. It just depends on how I like to use them. So if I'm kind of in a rush, I'll just drag them into an audio track. But if I want to, resample them a little bit more, I'll use a drum rack. Usually with the kicks, I like to see them very clearly. as well as their length. So I usually put that in an audio track. It allows me to create some more interesting rhythms with my kicks, which sounds weird, but it's a lot less about being able to easily drag and loop it and more you forced to being able to copy paste it over, delete things very easily. So I just bring down the master volume and then later on I bring it back up and mix everything appropriately.